Before time was measured, before kingdoms rose and fell, God was already writing stories that would change the world. This is one of them. I am Joseph, son of Jacob, 11th of 12 brothers. I was born under the eyes of love, but I grew up beneath the weight of hatred. From a young age, I sensed there was something different about me. My father, Jacob, treated me with special affection, perhaps because I was the child of his old age, or maybe because I was the son of Rachel, the great love of his life. He gave me a coat of many colors. More than just fabric, it was a symbol of favor. And my brothers, they couldn't stand it. But everything changed when I began to dream. One night I dreamed we were binding sheaves in the field. Suddenly my sheaf stood upright, and theirs gathered around and bowed down to it. I told them about it, thinking it mattered. I didn't realize I was watering the seeds of hate. Another night, I dreamed the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. My father rebuked me. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually bow down to you? Yet I saw something in his eyes. Wonder, maybe even fear. My brothers avoided me, whispered, stared at me like I was a stranger among them. One day, Father asked me to check on them while they tended the flocks near Shechem. I obeyed, not knowing that walk would change my life forever. From a distance, they saw me coming. They said to each other, "Here comes the dreamer." They plotted to kill me. Yes, my own brothers. But Reuben, the eldest, spoke up. Instead, they threw me into a dry cistern. I remember the sound of stones clattering as I fell. The sky above seemed small and far away. I screamed, pleaded. Nothing. Later they pulled me out. I thought they had repented, but they sold me for 20 pieces of silver to Ishmaelite traders on their way to Egypt. As I looked back, I saw them turn their faces away. No tears, no goodbye, just silence, and me, dragged by strangers, my heart in pieces. In that moment, my dreams felt dead, but the God of my fathers, he had not forgotten me. Was taken to Egypt like an animal in chains, confused, with my body weary and my soul broken. The tall palm trees and towering buildings seemed to swallow me whole. I was sold as a slave to a man named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard. His house was large and full of rules, but unlike what I imagined, I found there a strange kind of peace. I started with simple tasks. I cleaned, fetched water, organized the courtyards, and everything I touched prospered. Potiphar noticed. Slowly I was placed in charge of the entire household. It was as if God was with me, even there in that strange land. But then came temptation. Potiphar's wife began to watch me. With soft words and persistent eyes, she tried to seduce me. But I feared the Lord and respected my earthly master. How can I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? I asked. I fled from her, but one day she grabbed my robe and I left it in her hands and ran. She screamed, lied, said I tried to force her. I was imprisoned. Again, I descended into darkness. Again, betrayed, now by a lie. The prison was damp, cold, full of forgotten men. But even there, God was still with me. I gained the trust of the warden. Soon, I was managing the entire prison, until 2 of Pharaoh's servants were imprisoned, the cupbearer and the baker. They had dreams. I interpreted them. I told the cupbearer, "You will return to serve Pharaoh," and to the baker, "You will be hanged." Everything happened as I said. Before the cupbearer left, I pleaded, "Remember me!" But he forgot. From palace to pit, from house to prison, yet God was still with me. Even in silence, he was writing my story. 2 years passed. 2 long years in the silence of the prison. I wondered if the cupbearer had forgotten me forever. But then something happened. Pharaoh had a dream no one in all of Egypt could interpret. 7 fat cows came out of the river, followed by 7 thin cows that devoured the fat ones. Then 7 full ears of grain appeared, and soon 7 scorched ears swallowed them. Pharaoh was troubled. He summoned all the magicians and wise men. No one had an answer. That's when the cupbearer remembered me. I was hastily taken out of prison. They shaved my beard, changed my clothes, and brought me to the palace. There I stood, before the most powerful man on earth. He told me his dreams and asked if I could interpret them. I said, "It is not in me, but God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." I explained. The 7 good cows and the 7 good ears were 7 years of abundance. The thin and scorched ones, 7 years of famine. The famine would be so severe that no one would remember the abundance. I advised Pharaoh to appoint a wise man to manage the good years and store food for the hard times. Pharaoh looked around and said, "Can we find anyone wiser than this man in whom is the Spirit of God?" And that day, I, the Hebrew slave, was elevated to governor over all Egypt. I received Pharaoh's ring, linen garments, a gold chain, and a new name, Zaphanath-Paneah. I entered the prison as a forgotten man and came out a leader, because God never forgets those who trust in Him. Dramatic wide view of a parched land under harsh sun, cracked earth, people walking with empty baskets, dry wind and desolation, cinematic tone, ultra-detailed 8K realism. The years of abundance came just as I had said. 7 rich harvests. The storehouses overflowed. And during those years, I married and had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. But then came the famine. It arrived like a shadow, covering all the lands. Even Canaan suffered. One day I heard that men were coming from the north to buy grain. 10 brothers, my brothers, the ones who sold me. They were there, bowed to the ground before me. They did not recognize me, but I knew them. My heart raced, my soul was flooded with memories, pain, and compassion. I pretended not to know them. I spoke harshly, accused them of being spies. They said they were brothers, that they had an old father and a younger brother at home. I imprisoned Simeon and sent the others back, demanding that they bring the younger brother. I wanted to see if they had changed. I wanted to see Benjamin. When they returned with him, my heart could hardly bear it. He was my brother by the same mother, so much like me when I was young. I prepared a feast, loved them in secret, but I still tested them. I hid my cup in Benjamin's sack and accused them of theft. When I saw Judah offer himself as a slave in place of his brother, I couldn't take it anymore. I wept loudly. Everyone heard, my servants, my brothers. "I am Joseph," I cried, "the one you sold into Egypt." "Do not be afraid," I said. "It was God who sent me ahead of you to preserve life." In pain, God wrote purpose, and in reunion, He healed our story.
I sent my brothers back to Canaan to bring our father.
When he heard I was still alive, his heart nearly stopped, but hope sustained him. And then I saw him. My father, old and bent by time, entered my house. My eyes filled with tears. I embraced him and wept for a long time. "Now I can die," he said, "because I have seen your face and know you are alive." I made sure to honor him. I spoke with Pharaoh, and we were given the land of Goshen, rich, fertile, perfect for our family. We lived there in peace. We cared for one another. We watched the children grow. But then the time came for my father to depart. Jacob, Israel, our patriarch, rested. I took him back to Canaan, as he requested, and buried him with Abraham and Isaac. After that, my brothers were afraid. They thought I would take revenge now that our father was gone. But I said, "Do not fear. Am I in the place of God? You intended evil against me, but God turned it into good to save many lives." And so the boy who was sold became the man who saved his household. Because when God writes the story, even pain has purpose. The story of Joseph teaches us that even when life feels unfair and our dreams seem far away, God is still working behind the scenes. Joseph was betrayed, sold, and wrongfully accused, but he never lost his faith. In the right time, everything made sense. Let us remember, hardships are not the end of the journey, but part of the plan. Trust, persevere, and like Joseph, watch God turn pain into purpose.